Hey, family. It's Kim Love Jones here. I know y'all not used to me being here 12:30 in the afternoon. I know it's things are shifting. I'm trying to show up every day that I can. I want to talk about the power of healing before dating again. I spend a lot of time over there in those TikTok streets at night, so in the evening. So I'm trying to just show up on my for my Facebook family and do the things that I need to do. I want to talk about this, the fact that there's a lot of power in healing before we go out and we date. I just want to put my phone on do not disturb for a second, and I want to share this in my group. Hold on. Yes. But I wanted to jump on and I wanted to talk about this because oh, I think that this is so very important. It is very important to literally trying to show up every day. So in the evening. Oops. Yeah, I want to talk about this because I think that it's so powerful. Hi, I see you watching. Say hello, say hello, say hello. I just wanted to jump on because I think that there's a lot of heat power in healing before you go out and you date again, right? So I made a decision that I'm going to show up in this space every day around 12:30 for the month of April. And hopefully, moving forward, I don't want to be on here long because I realize, good afternoon, Rodney. You know I love me some you, right? I love you so, Rodney. Oh my God. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me. Say hello, say hello. I see y'all. Hey, Lori. How are you, my love? How are you, my sis? How you doing? So I want to talk about this because I think that it is so extremely important. And I'm being honest, like for me, right? I want to talk about how I got to my healing because I think that this is really important. I married this incredible man, right? And I see him as such today. I didn't see him like that, all the way through our marriage and our relationship. He is my ex-husband for a reason, right? Oh, baby, thank you so much. Listen, okay. But he's my ex-husband for a reason because we didn't sit well. Things did not work out between us. Needless to say, right? But the reason why I want to introduce this and I want to talk about this today is because when I met him, right? And I'm going to be brief about this, but when I met him, I did not know who I was. I was under the guise and under the ideology that you get married, you you have kids, you build a family, you get the house, you get the white little picket fence, you get a dog, and you live happily ever after. Amen. Nobody told me all the things that came in between that. I don't know why I thought I knew. I don't know why I thought I understood it all, right? But what I've learned from that is I've learned who I was. He's a good man still. He's the father of my children, except for my oldest son. But he is just this. Hey, D, I see you, my love. How are you, brother? How are you? Yes. So he's the father of my children, right? So we had some experiences, but I would not have had those experiences um, had it not been for him. I appreciate the entire relationship, although it was painful at the time. I needed to go through all that I went through in my life. I love you too, Cynthia. Thank you for watching. I needed to go through all that I went through. I love you. I love you, baby. I love you, sis. I love you. You are so dope and amazing. And I just love you. And I went through all that I went through so that I can get to where I am now. And I used to, when I first got separated from my husband and things were crazy and we were fighting and we were arguing and we were doing all the things, right? All the things that would make a relationship devolve. I did not realize that the things that hurt me the most were the things that were going to propel me into the better part of who I am today. I was mean, I was angry, I was hurt, I was broken. But what I came on here to tell y'all today is that I wasn't that way at the point that it wasn't solely because of what I experienced with him. That's what I'm trying to get to. It wasn't solely because of that. He was actually the catalyst to help me come to myself. I had already felt broken. I had already felt left. I had already felt abandoned. I didn't feel good about who I was. My mother did the best that she could, and so did my dad. They weren't like these, the way I talk about my mom, you would think my mom was next right up there with Mother Teresa, right? Right. You would think that she was right up there with Mother Teresa. You would think that my father was this amazing and incredible man, in which they both were, doing the very best that they could. They didn't realize that the things that we had, that I experienced through the lens that I saw, it was affecting me and affecting how I saw myself. When I saw dysfunction, it became normal to me to be around dysfunction. Right? And so as I grew up, I kind of took the bull by the horns. I found myself acting out what I saw and what I lived and what my life experience had been, the dysfunction. I found myself living that out in my adult life. And so that's all I knew. And that's all that I knew for my entire life. And so I then get married, right? And I make a choice. Although my ex-husband's a good guy, he wasn't good for me in any other regard, but he was good for me to learn about who I am. And that's why I don't begrudge the relationship. I have beautiful children. I have beautiful, and they took the best from both of us, right? And my oldest son, he just dope. He just dope across the board. Like, his heart is amazing, and he's just amazing, right? And I see the wonderfulness of everything that happened in spite of what I went through. But I learned, y'all, that the things that were triggering me, the things that didn't feel right in me, was the very thing that I needed. Those are the areas that I needed to work on in myself, so that I wouldn't recreate the dysfunction from my life and live that way throughout my life, if that makes any sense. I needed to find myself, and you don't find the better part of yourself when you're not challenged. And it's unfortunate that it comes through relationships, whether it is relationships with your children, relationships romantically, relationships with your siblings, right? The only reason why I know I am as strong and resilient as I am is because, first of all, I come from resilient parents. But then I'm resilient because I made it through this far. And I learned that I don't have to yell and scream and raise my voice. Like, I don't have to go off. I don't have to get you back. I learned all of this in the process of my healing. Now, before I got to this place, I had a whole bunch of ups and downs in my life. I didn't feel good about who I was. And how can you feel good about who you are if you feel abandoned, if you feel left behind, if you feel like you're not enough? And it wasn't at the hands of my parents that I felt that way. It was lifing that made me feel that way. And I wore that in my spirit, man. Like I had to, like armor. Like I walked through life already looking for trouble, because this is how I thought it had to be. And I don't know if that's making sense, but the mindset that I had was a mindset that did not speak to love. It didn't speak to peace. It didn't speak to joy. It was a mindset of I have to fight. I, and for the life of me, it wasn't anything anybody told me. It was my experiences that was shaping my reality. And I had to get to the point in my life where I began to understand that I was literally creating for myself the life that I was living. It wasn't until I began to sit with myself and ask myself some hard questions that I began to have my breakthrough, that I began to see the beauty in who I am and even the beauty in the experiences that I've had. Because when I was angry and I was pointing outward and blaming everybody else for everything that had happened in my life, there is no healing in that. But when I begin to get some clarity around emotional clarity, because that's important, when I begin to get emotional clarity, I begin to change. When I begin to see that it wasn't everybody else, Kim, you gotta grab a host to what you really want in your life. It's Kim, I had to say to myself, Kim, it's not everybody else. Either your picker is broken. You're choosing to engage with these people. It's not everybody else. Why do you, Kim, these are the questions. Kim, I ask myself, Kim, why do you continue to engage with people who are emotionally unavailable? And could that perhaps be because you're having surface relationships with people because you're afraid to get hurt? So you're having these surface relationships with people and you don't want to lean in and be authentic with them because you're afraid or you're fearful about the fact that they don't have the capacity to love you. So I get married, right? Because who doesn't want to be married as a woman? Who doesn't want to be married? But what I didn't realize is that the marriage was going to lead me to my healing through all of the hurt, through all of the pain, through everything that I experienced was going to lead me back to myself. Because I needed to sit with myself. I needed to understand me better. I couldn't be mad at nobody else if I wasn't clear about what I wanted, if I didn't have emotional clarity, and the pain caused me to go back and begin to work on what was important to me emotionally. And once I started digging into that, I began to gain clarity about what I needed and wanted emotionally from a partner, right? But it was easy for me, and I'm being honest, at the onset to be mad, to be angry with him, to be have the posture of protecting myself from the man that I married. And I'm not saying that he didn't have any fault, y'all. I'm not saying that he was this perfect person. I'm not saying that. But I couldn't even envision my life being better because of my thinking, because of the way that I was raised, because of the dysfunction that I saw. And I couldn't believe better for myself. I didn't even know how to wrap my head around healthy. And because of that, I couldn't get to healthy. So I needed to have some emotional clarity about where I am, what I want, and what I need in my own life, right? Even when you're in a relationship and you're not sure where you're at, maybe you just need to find out, like sit with yourself and find out, why did you end up there? How did I? And I asked myself that question because I'm like, girl, wait, how, what in the Sam Hill? Like, wait a minute. How did you get here? How did you get here? Like, what were you thinking? How did you allow someone to come into your life that didn't full out love you? And the answer to that is painful. And I'm not telling you, I'm so serious about this. I am not telling you that this is an easy journey to go on. This healing journey, hey, hear me, it's difficult. Listen, waking up to yourself is like putting, I don't know about y'all, but a full length mirror, butt naked, standing in it, and you can see every fat pocket, everything that's out of order. To take a mirror, hold it up in front of yourself, and be looking at your body, and you ain't got no six pack, but you got what is equivalent to a beer belly, or being 8 months pregnant, and you don't feel good about that, and like, uh this is not an easy journey. The awakening is not easy. I remember distinctly listening to, and I'm gonna have to go in a little bit, y'all, but I remember distinctly listening to my pastor, and my pastor was talking about Moses, and he was talking about Pharaoh, right? And when Moses went to Pharaoh, and I wrote this in my book, but I distinctly remember I came home and listened to that tape over and over and over again. And what I could not foresee happening in my life, and this is real talk, y'all, what I could not foresee was that I was the one with Pharaoh-esque tendencies. Because when I first heard the story about Moses and Pharaoh, of course, I equated to the Moses in the story. But I never equated myself to the person that had the hardened heart. I always saw things through the lens that was most beneficial to me at the time. But that doesn't mean that I'm healthy. I needed to deal with who I was being in order for me to get to the next place. And the next place was breaking the cycle. It was breaking the cycle. It was believing more for myself. It was wanting more for myself, understanding that I am valuable. But to be honest, me being a relationship coach, it took me years to do this. And what I do now for my clients and the people who are in my classes, what I do now is I help them to expedite the process because I asked myself these questions and I found the answers in myself. And so if I am going to break the cycle, I need to get real clear about what's important for me. And no, we as a people are not monoliths. We all don't feel the same thing all at the same time. But that's why my classes and that's why my workshops that I do help to open up and bring clarity to some things that we struggle with in our relationships. Like, I remember being like so mad at my favorite, I shouldn't even say that, but me and my sister Sandra are like super duper close, right? Like, she couldn't do anything without me as a kid. Like, I wanted to follow her to the moon and back. I used to be like, I want to go with my sister. I want to go with my sister. I was so like, she couldn't go nowhere without me. And it was terrible because I would cry and cry and cry. And my mother, she would be like, okay, come on. My sister would be like, okay, come on. Because I used to drive her crazy, right? But I remember me and her having like these really difficult, as adults, having really difficult relationships. And I absolutely adore her. We would sometimes argue and go through. And then I realized one day that that's not what I wanted for us. And I just stopped. Now every time we get on the phone, like we older now, but now I had to really practice with my sister. Like, I love you. I change my tone when I answer the phone. You know how somebody call you and you talk to them one time and be like, hey, what's up? And there's no excitement. There's no love. There's no nothing behind, just, hey, what's up? No. I talk to my sister now, and I really mean this with such love and kindness, because it begins at home. I started to change how my relationships are when I talk to my children. I started becoming better, different. Not better than anybody, but the idea is to do what God tells us to do in his word. But when I was younger, I didn't have any idea or concept. The only concept I had was what the world had taught me. And then when I started living my life according to the word and the will of God, things begin to change for me. I gotta, you don't have a partner, practice with your family. How do you treat your kids? How do you treat your siblings? How do you treat your cousins? So the reality of the situation is that I had to become better within myself in order to get to better. So I had to start doing things differently. I couldn't continue to think that my life was going to be spectacular unless I changed. Because in order to break the cycles, the things that keep us in bondage, the things that keep us sad, waking up every morning, just simply getting up and saying, thank you, Lord. And beginning to praise him for everything that he had done. It was a game changer for me because it changed my mindset. And I know that this sounds like so simple, but when we look at our lives through the lens of defeat and not abundance, how can we get to a happy, healthy relationship if we always feel defeated? How does that work? And when I woke up, and when I was married, I was still thinking about what happened yesterday or the week before or the week before that. And what he did or he didn't do. There wasn't a lot of forgiveness for him. There wasn't a lot of resolution. There wasn't a lot of resolve. It was like, I'm going to hold on to this like my life depends on it. And I'm going to continue to hold his feet to the fire because I know how to fight. But do I know how to love? This is the reason why we have to understand why we need to heal before we move on further, before we do anything. I can tell y'all flat out, me and my sister's relationship has never been better. Never been better. I watch even my oldest sister, Brenda, who I love and adore. I watch her and I see the joy that she has in her life and in her face. And I am so blessed to have sisters like this. But I was the one that needed to change. And I hope that this makes sense. Because in order to get something, you have to become something. I had to be the one to break the cycle for myself. So I am not always offended by every little thing that anybody says to me. That they get to be who they are, right? And I get to show up and be a bright light in the spaces and in the places that I show up in. This is what we have to learn to do, but you only get to this place when you heal. I can't expect somebody else to be something that I am not. I would not have even gone out with my husband had I been in a healed space. But I thank God for him. And the reason why I thank God for him is because all of that trauma, the divisiveness, the ugly, helped me to bring me back to myself. It helped me to want to recenter and to change and to morph into the person that I am right now. There is so much power in healing who you are. Before you go back out there and you get involved with anybody else, heal. Work on yourself. Break the cycles that you saw. For some men, they never saw their father. For some women, they saw their mother in compromising situations and they believed that that was normal. It is not normal. That wasn't normal. The dysfunction is not normal. Cussing and carrying on and yelling and screaming is not normal. You can change that. You can change your life. You don't have to stay where you are. You can begin to embrace how beautiful, wonderful, and amazing you are. You don't even have to fight the way that you used to fight. I mean, real talk. When we begin to heal, things begin to change. When we do things the way that we ought to do them, in a real way, we find joy. Now, people often ask me, Kim, how can you speak to relationships and you're not in one? The reason why I can speak to them and not be in one is because I follow the core tenets of what the Word of God says about our lives. And I practice on the people that are in my life. And I'm watching the change. I'm watching the evolution and the transformation of those relationships because I'm the one who changed. Not because of them, but because of me. Because the only one string that I have to play on is to change my attitude, to change the way that I do business. And yes, I still felt abandoned when I was a child. And yes, I still saw dysfunction. And yes, my parents didn't always do the right thing, but they did the best that they could. And yes, now I have forgiveness in my heart, even when people are out of order concerning me. Yes. You know why? Because I choose love. I choose peace. And I choose joy. And I wasn't always this person. But I understand that we're here to serve. But I couldn't serve anybody until I healed. I couldn't serve anyone until I worked on what I needed to do for me, until I started showing up different. Because who wants to be around somebody that's angry and somebody that's hurting and somebody that gets offended every 5 minutes if you say any one little thing? And I realized that it was me who needed to do the body of work. I had a girlfriend one time, and I know y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I asked the question. I said to my girlfriend, she was talking about getting married again, right? And she was married, and her husband cheated on her. And I said to her, what would you do differently if this husband, I'm not saying that he would, when you find a new guy, what would happen? Like if he cheated on you, what would you do? And she said, Kim, I don't know. I said, no, but ask yourself that question because you don't need to answer it for me. I'm just asking, what would you do? How would you handle it differently? Or would you handle it differently? Right? And I said, you realize that cheating is more about them than it ever was you. You realize that, right? Because they lack character and integrity and all of that. It didn't have anything to do with you. You was cooking, you was cleaning, you was being a good wife, you was working, you was bringing, like all the things. You was doing all of that, right? So what would you do differently if you got married again? Right. And so what God's been showing me, because that's been coming up for me, this is a long time ago, but that's been coming up for me, is that the person that has to be in my life has to operate with good character and integrity, right? And I realize the reason why that keeps coming up for me is because that's important to me. So that, because I don't believe all men cheat, and I know like people will argue me down to the ground, but I just don't believe that. Um, I don't believe that you can hang around people who lack good character and have something great. So the husband or the man that is for you, once you heal and know who you are, is the one that operates with good character and integrity. We can't get to where it is that we want to be until we begin to operate in it for ourselves. And so you have to heal. You have to heal. You have to work on yourself. You have to make yourself a priority. And you have to love yourself. And can I tell y'all something? When I was younger, before I got married, I didn't love myself. I didn't even know what that was. I thought that I did, but I didn't. I didn't know what to expect, and I expected somebody else to love me, and I wasn't loving myself. And today I honor myself and I honor what I need. And I move in accordance with that. I don't think everybody is inherently bad, but I think, and nor do I think everybody is inherently good. I just think that we all have to work on ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves. And that is a process. So you have to heal before you start dating again. Or if you're already in a relationship, begin your process to becoming the best person you know how to be in the confines of that relationship. And stop believing that it's everybody else that needs to change when it's you that needs to change your mindset. I gotta go. My cousin is coming up here she's here. She's almost at my house. And she's here from Florida, and I'm going to hang out with her. Me and my sisters, we're going to go hang out and do our thing. And I am so excited to see her. So I'm ready. I done got gussied up so I could go out here and hang out with my cousin. Listen, I want y'all to come and be a part of my workshop. It's coming up May the 10th. It is going to be an experience like nothing else I have ever done. And if anybody has ever been to my workshop, you know that they are amazing. And we do a lot of work and we lean into this. And I really want you to come to my workshop. I think that you are going to have a breakthrough while you're there. In addition to the activities, Monique Denton is hosting it. She is going to be the MC, and we are going to have an amazing time. And while it is primarily for women, I am inviting my brothers to come out and be a part of it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the brothers always come out to support me. And if they want to be in the building, I'm going to let them be in the building, because I just think that, when you're around, like, it's like church. When you're around other people who have a like mindset, you bring something to the table that is awesome. And so there's going to be some karaoke fellowship going on up in there, because I'm going to be passing the mic as we go through the exercises. And I am excited. I really am, to see what's going to happen on May the 10th. So yeah, purchase your tickets. The link is on my wall. I'm excited about it, y'all. Y'all got to come through. Listen, I love y'all. I think that's my cousin at the door. Y'all have an awesome and amazing day.